Hey, how's it going? It is Monday, April 20th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. Now, today we're going to get some coronavirus updates, also an interesting update of a conspiracy theory that's starting to look like it's true, and we'll look more in depth at this week's Sunday message. So, how are you guys doing? I know you guys were probably really busy on the weekend, so were we. We had a bunch of things going on Saturday. We had the Bubble Talk talking about how to live a truly fulfilling life. And we definitely encourage all of you to check out the live Bubble Talks every Saturday at 8 p.m. Malaysia time. Yesterday was also the Sunday edition, and we interviewed none other than Brianna Ruiz. It was a fun, meaningful, graceful interview. We talked about her life, her faith, and just how it's affected everything about her and her art. So I suggest you guys just listen to that. It was a really, really good interview. Also, if you noticed, all the Bubble Talks and Lockdown Tuesday Bible studies, they're gone from this channel. Now, I didn't erase them. Don't worry about it. They've moved to a newcomer-friendly YouTube channel I started yesterday called Espresso with Sky. Okay? The reason I call it espresso is not just because I love coffee. It's because just like espresso, it's like small and strong, right? These lectures, they're not long. They're small, short, and strong lectures for your newcomers to listen to. So if you or any newcomers want to hear some spiritual messages relevant to this time we're living in, go and check out Espresso with Sky. The link will be in the description on this video. So let's go on to the featured artist of the day. And today we'll be heading back to Japan and revisiting Kuma-chan as we play his debut single on the Morning Star Drive, the single, Fighter. That's Kuma-chan with the song Fighter. Now, the second song will be from the Sumney Boys as they sing their hit single, True Love. So everyone, just relax, enjoy everything, and just have a great time. Ooh, 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 ooh,
この先は自分のためのステージ生きるという最初の1ページ I'm a fighter 心の中で唱えた自分に負けたくないと思えただけど途絶えた行いがないならばまるで燃料切れのライター誰が何と思うと関係ない一種の判断で決まるリブは大締めるベルト道がアスファルトでも進むウエスト尽くすベスト夢と現実の狭間で揺れ動いてるだけど絶対諦めないファイター戦い続けるためファイター己に打ち勝つまでファイター挑戦し続けるだけファイターどんな壁も突き破れ心に火を灯せ熱くないなら嘘だろ靴底は全て知ってる歩んできた道のりを見つめるいや道のりの身の字もまだ来てねえ諦めるのなら実りもねえ感覚を研ぎ澄ませ今刻め生きるという最後の1ページどんな失敗も恐れなくていい何度転んでも起き上がればいい自分の感情を信じてスタンダップ立ち止まってもソウルまで捨てんな夢と現実の狭間から逃げ出したくなるだけどこの勝負負けられないファイター戦い続けるためファイター己に打ち勝つまでファイター挑戦し続けるだけファイター中でもぶち壊せ心に火を灯せ自分で選んだ道ならファイター Are you a fighter? 熱くないなら嘘だろそうお前は決して一人じゃないだろう
sacrifice my life for you. Every day doing so much to show that I love you. True love only needs one thing, a loving heart. But sometimes I feel we're just falling apart. I live never forgetting you from the bottom of my heart. I expected the same for you, but you ripped it apart. I've been through hell and back, and you realize that much. I'm thinking about you constantly without ever giving up. I'm sitting next to you waiting just to hear your voice. My heart pounds, the pin drops, but I only hear my voice. But when you realize how much I've actually really done, I saved you and forgave you for everything that you have done. So never forget the value. Do with all your effort, become one in body and thoughts, taking action together, living a life without leaving me out no matter what. True love means you will work hard to get there no matter what. What happened to our love? Started out great. We used to be together. Now look at us. Just do a little more. We used to be one. Stop saying all these things. Now it feels so hard to connect with you. Trying so hard to feel when I'm losing you, but now you shouldn't be asking yourself. I know you said sorry about a million times, but I'd rather you do what's right so we won't waste time. You're losing the value, I see you starting to wonder why. It's that you're starting to leave me out of your daily life. It must be continuous like the earth that's spinning without rest. It's easy to love in the instant and give your very best. It's hard to do it continually, giving all your life. But true love means you need to make a sacrifice. You must have conviction to never sin again. You must not forget me from your thoughts ever again. Let's do everything together and never separate. I hope you never forget the smile that's on my face. So open your eyes and now realize there's so much I can do just waiting for the other side. Living a life without leaving me out no matter what. True love means you will work hard to get there no matter what. What happened to our love? Started out great. We used to be together. Now look at us. Just do a little more. We used to be one. Stop saying all these things. Now it feels so hard to connect with you. Trying so hard to feel when I'm losing you, but now you shouldn't be asking yourself. When I just feel like giving up, I always remember you, so it lifted my strength up. Even the days we didn't speak, I still gave all my love. I know you love me, but never realized my true love. I'm working hard every day just to give you all my heart. To hear you complain and be lazy, that's nothing that I want. Let's live a life where we do not forget each other now. True love is to always include your other half. I want the good, the bad, the sad, and happy. Every single moment of you is what makes me happy. When you're not doing the work that you're supposed to do, I still give you inspirations, even feels like I don't want to. It's 'cause I love you. Started out great, but now look at us. We used to be one, and now it feels the trials that we went through made us even stronger. Whatever comes at us will only make us better. I see beauty in the struggle, I'm not afraid of this. Give you true love 'cause you taught me what I always miss. True love is giving everything that I got. True love is never giving up no matter what. True love is only fighting till the end with me. I walk this path because I love you, don't you see? 'Cause at the end of this path will be you and me. Every step we take on this journey is history. 'Cause all the trials, tribulations, and the miseries can never penetrate the love that you have for me. True love is giving everything that I got. True love is never giving up no matter what. True love is only fighting till the end with me. I walk this path because I love you, don't you see? 'Cause at the end of this path will be you and me. Every step we take on this journey is history. 'Cause all the trials, tribulations, and the miseries can never penetrate the love that you have for me.
And that was True Love by the Sumney Boys, and before that was Kuma-chan with Fighter, and I hope you guys really enjoyed those two songs just like I did. We're going to move into some of our coronavirus updates, and of course, it's been the weekend, so we haven't had the Morning Star Drive for 2 days, so the numbers are going to be kind of skyrocketing because it's like equivalent of like 2 days, right? So our numbers are up. The number of cases in the world right now is roughly around 2.35 to 2.4 million. We have 160,000 deaths at the moment. So we've, like I talked about on Friday, swine flu, they said the estimate was the minimum it killed was about 150,000. So we've moved into swine flu territory. And if you look at the U.S. right now, of course, is like it's number one in the world with cases, just numbers wise, but not percentage wise, right? So the U.S. right now is at 740,000 cases, which is like 750,000, which is really, really high. And they have almost 40,000 deaths. Their percentage of the mortality rate's going higher and higher. Last week it was like 4.4. Because there's more deaths happening. It's about 5.28% at the moment. Spain is got the second most cases with 195,000, and they've hit the 20,000 mark in deaths, so now they're at 20,000. Italy's 175,000 with 23,000 deaths. And just around the corner is France and the UK. Like they're right there, because when you look at their stats, and their mortality rate is really high. Like, Italy's slowing down, right? So less cases and less deaths. But France and the UK, France is at 152,000 with 19,000 deaths. So soon they'll be hitting the 20,000 death mark, which means we'll have 4 countries over. And of course, if you go by what the real news is, most likely China's over 20,000 too, right? And the UK is at 114,000 with 15,000 deaths. And right now, the UK has the highest mortality rate. It's about 13.5%. So they're even higher than Italy at the moment, because Italy is just kind of topped off at around 13.2%. UK, they're just going to keep going higher and higher. France is second, right? It's not even Spain anymore. It's France with 12.73. And then, Spain's like 10.3, and then the US is still around 5.2%. So you kind of get an idea of what this mortality rate is. And it's not, we can't really be fooled by numbers, because even if you look at China's like 1.5 billion or something. It's ridiculous. So their number should be way higher, but the percentage should be somewhere around the range of the US, France, or the UK. Or it's probably not going to be as good as the US too, because their healthcare system's not as good. Couple of countries that we have to watch out that are spiking the most, and obviously it's the US. They're really, really high right now. I believe I think they're gaining like 30 to 40,000 people a day for cases, which is really high. But France, the UK, and Russia is like the highest moving. They're moving the highest. They're increasing at 15%. And they're already at 37,000 with 313 deaths. India, too, is growing really fast. It's a higher rate, but they're still it's because they're at a low number right now. They only have about 16,000 cases with 500 deaths. I think it's kind of interesting is it's Singapore. Yeah, Singapore's really interesting. They just overtook, well, not just, but, they overtook Malaysia over the weekend. So Malaysia's down to, they have about 5,300 cases, where Singapore has 6,000. But the good thing about these Southeast Asian countries, doesn't seem like there's a lot of death going on, because Singapore, even though they have 6,000 cases, they only have 11 deaths. And Malaysia, too, they have, 8 times more, but really, it's 5,300 cases with 88 deaths. So, the good thing is, I would like to believe that it's because of me. But, obviously it's not because of me. Well, no, not just me. It's because of all the brides that are here. That's why it allows a God to sacrifice, allows this place to be safe. Of course, the 3 heroes, right? I call these the hero countries, is like Taiwan, Germany, and Korea. They're like hero countries, right? They're just ridiculous. Like, they're so good. So I don't even want to say their numbers anymore, because we just know that they're the hero countries. And I would say particularly Taiwan. Like Taiwan, I would say more than any other country is like the top of the hero, like superhero status. One thing I just totally respect is they completely like disregarded the WHO in China and just went straight in. They sent doctor in there, saw the case, 5 days later shut down everything, and this is why they're doing so well right now. A couple of interesting things in the news. Well, if you look at we're just gonna look at New York, because in America it's like 750,000, 740,000, and then 39,000 deaths. But you got to know that half of the deaths are from 2 states, from New York and New Jersey, and they're right next to each other. Actually, they're kind of like sister states, like they're connected. People in New Jersey are like working in New York and stuff like that, and people in New York will live in New Jersey, but both of them combined have like 22,000 deaths between two states. 22,000 of 39,000. Right, so it's more than half. Of course, New York takes a big bulk of it. Like I said before, is even if you took New York by itself, it would still be the highest in cases, and but it wouldn't be quite the highest in deaths. But think about it: it's one state, 237,000 cases, and almost 18,000 deaths, and that's in one state. So it must be pretty crazy over there in the hospitals. I know we have a couple of members there that are nurses and doctors. We have Emily, and I believe we have Esther. I'm not sure if there's anyone else that we know that are nurses and doctors in New York. But I also brought up last week, we have Zinni and her husband up there in Ontario. There are other doctors over there too. So we really got to pray for them that they're going to stay safe, that they'll have enough protective equipment, personal protective equipment for everyone there too for the entire time that they're there. Another interesting thing that I saw was, remember I talked about Pakistan about a week ago? And I was saying like that's a place where they had that 250,000 person Muslim prayer event. Like, I'm not saying, like I told you the same thing in Georgia too. The Christian pastor got arrested because they're still having services like mass gatherings and stuff, right? But this is like on steroids. This is 250,000 people, and they're like basically these are people from all over different countries, and they're spreading this virus between them. I'm not surprised, but Pakistan has lifted their limit on mosque congregating. Like I think before it was supposed to be like limit of 5. But they've lifted it. They're like just starting, and they lifted their ban. And the reason is because next month is the holy month for Muslims. So I don't know what's going to go on there, but I would just hate to be in that region and to see what's going to go on. Like there's going to have to be tons of aid going over there to Pakistan and probably any surrounding country for that matter either. So I really hope that they kind of smarten up and realize that this is not a small thing, but really serious. Australia is very interesting too because even though there's like lockdowns, everything going on there, I've been watching some news in Australia, and they are livid about China. China's their number one trading partner, but it looks like they're ready to get out of there. Like they don't want to be with China anymore, and they're looking to find out how China's going to pay for everything. So it's pretty interesting that they're like kind of putting on the pressure on China right now during this time. And that brings us kind of into the next thing is how much pressure is going on into China. And it's pretty crazy. Like the biggest news right now, I told you guys from the beginning that it's like a conspiracy theory that's starting to look like it's true. And I'm not saying it's true yet. But now even the U.S. government is starting to acknowledge it, right? Saying that, yeah, we've got some intel and we've got some things showing, and it's all about the origin of the coronavirus. It's about the origin of it. Now, when we look at this, originally it's not the full thing, but originally the conspiracy theory is that it was made in a lab in Wuhan. Okay, now that's not all true. Like what they're saying is it's not made in a lab. Like when most experts look at this, there's nothing changed in the genome or nothing modified on it. So it's not really a man-made disease. But the interesting thing is this. The reason why there's this big news about the origin of the coronavirus, like is it from the lab? Is it not from, like everyone's saying wet market. But the interesting thing is when you look at this coronavirus, it comes from a certain bat that is not sold in any wet market in Wuhan. And the place that you'll find these bats is not even in Wuhan. It's way like dozens of miles away. It's not even close. You're not going to even see these bats there. They're called horseshoe bats. And the interesting thing is there's a lab in Wuhan it's a virus lab. And they have like 200 or 300 different coronaviruses there. And they have horseshoe bats in that lab. So what they're saying right now is the intel that's coming out right now, and I'm not going to say it's true yet, but it's actually coming out even when it's coming out in like governments are saying it. And you know that no one wants to like bring up anything that's hearsay, but it seems to be relevant or enough information or evidence to say that it is a real possibility, that there had to have been some type of sloppy handling of this virus that made it go out on accident. Right? Like I said, this horseshoe bat doesn't exist in that area in Wuhan. It just doesn't. It's not even sold in the wet markets there. So it's very hard to say that it came from the wet market, but they say that's going to be the cover-up. So they're thinking that the patient zero is someone who works at the lab. And the experts are saying that, and they said the experts are comfortable saying that this is a possibility. Because in the past, it was just conspiracy theory. But now it's being brought up not only openly to the public, but also behind the scenes. They're talking about it. It is really weird because it's once thought to be a conspiracy theory. It's now something that really has to be looked into. And no matter what China says, like no one has any reason to believe anything China says, right? So there's one of these doctors named Dr. Michael Pillsbury, and he's a director of the Hudson Institute of Chinese Strategy. And he talks about how U.S. intelligence, the word is going around that they picked up in intel that people there were talking about something about a virus escaping the lab. So, and it had to do more with sloppy handling. Now, even if it's sloppy handling and not done well, even if it's a mistake, the bigger problem is the cover-up that happens right after it. Like stopping the doctors from leaking out that this is actually happening, making sure the world thinks that everything is okay in China. But that has become, and that this is probably the biggest thing that's happening to China is more than anything else, regardless of whether this comes from the lab or not, it's about the cover-up. The cover-up becomes the biggest thing that the people are they are so upset from country to country. The biggest countries that are upset that I've seen so far over the news is Japan, Australia, and the US. And I know creeping around the corner, Europe is going to get into it too once they find it. Because think about this, Europe got affected the most. Four of the largest and major countries besides Germany, the other four countries, they're all over 10% death rate, right? So if you think about it, in the future, it looks like there's going to be something that's going to happen in the future that we have to look into. So I really hope that I hope that whatever is true will come out, that nothing's made up. So, I guess it's the way that God would say it is, that everyone gets paid according to their deeds, right? I just hope it's like that. I just don't want to. I just hope things are not done with a bias, like, because we don't like them, we're gonna do it like this, right? So that brings us into the praise section. The praise section today, we're going to start with the request all the way from New York. We have a member, Darren Myers, and he's requested the song On the Lord's Side. So we're going to hear that song first. And then after that, this is going to be one of my favorite songs, a song by Sarah Chamberlain from the UK. It is Words of Life. So everyone, just as we heard in this week's message, he said, even if it's hard, you got to praise. Even if it's hard, you just got to praise. So I hope that all of us too can praise at this time.
My Savior's name on high, we have won, oh Providence history. I have received the rapture thanks to Him. With this blessing, I will give my everything for Him. Now I will protect my Lord, standing on His side. I will not forget the conditions He set for me. Now no matter what kind of trials may come, my heart will not crumble, I'll stand with Him. The Lord is with me, I will go, and I'll give Him glory. Praise to the Lord, my love. And now I'll testify to all the world. I'll preach about the person who made this rapture mine. I'll remember how He showed His love, leading me to this perfect history. Now, as an owner, I'll fulfill the will. I am living
long to fulfill the stars in your history. Now I will protect my Lord, standing on his side. I will not forget the conditions he set for me. Now no matter what kind of trials may come, my heart will not crumble. I'll stand with him. The Lord is with me. I will go and I'll give him glory. Praise to the Lord, my love. And now I'll testify to all the world. I'll preach about the person who made this rapture mine. Now I will protect my Lord, standing on his side. I will not forget the conditions he set for me. Now no matter what kind of trials may come, my heart will not crumble. I'll stand with them. The Lord is with me. I will go and I'll give him glory. Praise to the Lord, my love. And now I'll testify to all the world. I'll preach about the person who made this rapture mine. From now we'll become one and we'll go out and take action. We will fulfill his will. We'll stand together making history and shine this light to reach every corner of the world.
Only you, in my life there's only you, in my heart, in my mind, over everything there's you. You're my all I think about is you, and the things you want to do. How I wish to love you more. I love you, love the word, and I value what you speak. But sometimes my first heart grows distant and weak. Once again, I will set my mind and pray, so my thoughts won't slip away. How I wish to love you more. adore your thoughts. I love your will. I long to receive more of your heart. How I long to hear even one more word of life. For me endlessly to be fulfilled all you desire. How I love you, Lord. I can't express. I long to receive more of your heart. Spirit, help me to empty all my heart. Lord, please help me to live with your heart. How I'm longing to give you all my heart.
And that was Words of Life. That was sung by Sarah Chamberlain from the UK. And also that first song was a request all the way from New York from Darren Myers. And that song was On the Lord's Side. So I hope you guys really enjoyed those two songs and had a good time of praise together. And that's going to bring us to the time of the Word. And I'm sure that all of you guys love the Word. So the word this week, once again, it gives me the chills. Like a couple of these points here that just gave me the chills. Like, of course, the whole message is really good. The poems are great. Well, there's just a couple of points that just invoked deep thought, right? And the first one was something that I've just never thought about in this way. And in the message, what was brought up was, do you know how hard God works? And you know what? It is something that is totally not in your mind. Like, even if people are saying that, oh, God worked really hard. It's like, honestly, are you really, like how much are you really feeling that God has worked that hard? And the one thing that just kind of it gave me like these goosebumps, he's like, think about it. God is omnipotent, omniscient, he is almighty, and yet it took 13.5 billion years to create all this. Right? It's so crazy, right? When you think about it that way. Omnipotent, almighty, omniscient. And one thing that it really put into my mind was it just changed the way I thought about what those words mean. Like almighty, all-powerful, divine, omnipotent, omniscient. They're such huge words. And we feel that these words are in such a stratosphere that we cannot, it's just so good, so big, so great. We just can't comprehend. But I don't think people realize, we really don't comprehend that how hard did God work to make the entire universe and all of creation and human beings. I just never looked at it that way. And when it came out in the message, I was just like, wow, what is that? I have never thought about that. And the comparison was, you've been trying to make a house all your life, and most of you will probably inherit, but you'll never build your own. And just to get a house, it takes forever to buy one. It's going to take more than half your lifetime. But can you imagine? It's like the effort and what it takes to make this universe and all creation. And that was one of the things that it gave me shivers. I was just like, whoa, I never thought about that. That's crazy. That's crazy deep. And I think in my mind, I need to, reprogram the way I think of the word almighty, all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient. I just got to reprogram those, because in my mind, it is so easy when I put those words next to someone's name or next to anything, I would think they would never deal with any problems. But when I think about it more deeply, it's like, if there weren't any problems, why would he ever get upset? You know what I mean? Why would God ever judge? Why would he be so angry? If you were that almighty, omnipotent, nothing would hurt you. But it's almost like we're looking at a level where the higher you go, the less emotion you have, which kind of doesn't make any sense if you really think about that, right? That the higher you go, the less emotion you have. Shouldn't it be the higher you go, the more powerful the emotion becomes? More than it lessens? And I think that's probably a misperception or misconception of we're thinking that emotions are wrong or emotions are not a good thing. And I think it's something that we need to relook and think about and pray about, to sincerely say to God, God, you worked so hard. You've done such a great job for these last 13.5 billion years. And I'm so thankful to you. Man, that was just so thought-provoking for me. Another thing that I really enjoyed from this week's message, that really invoked a deep thought in me, is when in the message it said, there are times when I have to tell you that you are close to a cliff and you're about to fall off and you can die, and that time is right now. It's like he said, it's that one moment that you can die. And then it goes into, God is talking to you right now. This is that time. When God says this is the time when God says you're close to a cliff. So when I heard this, I was trying to think to myself, like the biggest thing we have is coronavirus. And we also know that people under 45 are pretty much safe, right? We might get a little bit sick, mild symptoms or whatnot. It's mainly the elderly that are going to have these problems. But it's really interesting. It was so shocking to me. And the first inspiration that came into my mind was, how seriously are we taking this prayer condition? Right? Like he said, it's how well we do that will determine whether this goes further or stops at the time it should. And if we're taking it seriously, then we have to think about this very seriously to make sure that this situation doesn't go any further than it really does. And I'm just really hoping that it's kind of something to make me think a lot more deeply of what I'm doing and how seriously I take it also. Because let's take a look at stats that affect people under 45 or people who are much younger. And I talked about this 2 weeks ago, I believe, or last week. Beginning of last week was just in America itself. We talked about unemployment, and how it's correlated to like depression, mental illness, suicide, spousal abuse, right? And I was just reading another stat that came out, and it said when before this coronavirus came in, we're anywhere around 4% unemployment rate. This is in America, and they said just in America, this is just America alone. They said for every percentage point it goes up, it's about 10,000 people that die. And that's a scary thing, because right now we have, they say that we're heading towards something like 20%, 30% unemployment. And that means, like, if it's 1 percentage is 10,000 people, then just 10 people is 100,000 people that die for every 10%. And we're going well over 10%. 10, 15, 20% over. So, that's a stat that people dying from, unemployment might be higher than the actual people that die from the coronavirus. So, these are some stats I was looking at. I was like, wow, this is quite interesting and quite scary too. And I think we need to start thinking a little bit more about what is going on and how what is this cliff that God is talking to us about. And because by the end of the message is always be careful on your own, be careful on your own, be careful on your own. So I hope that all of us too can really understand what is happening. And as the message said, we got to learn to adapt, or we can't move on, if we can't live on if we don't adapt. So look at your situation now. We got to move forward. Okay, so that's going to bring us to the the choice, my choice, right? Or you guys can make recommendations too. I'm not sure if you guys can guess this song. Most of you who are in your mid-30s, born in America or Canada, will know this song, or maybe in Europe too. It goes, if you're lost, you can look and you'll find me. Time after time. Yeah, this song is for Cyndi Lauper. It's from the 80s, 1983. It's called Time After Time. It's a great song. One of the songs, classics for people in the 80s. If you're lost, you can look and you'll find me. If you fall, I will catch you and I'll be waiting. Right? Time after time. So it's almost like God's song to us. So everyone sit back, relax. We're going to listen to this song, and it's going to be a cover also. And the cover is going to be by Boyce Avenue and Jacqueline and Megan Davies. So everyone, let's listen up to Time After Time.
Lying in my bed, I hear the clock ticking. Think of you, caught up in circles. Confusion is nothing new. Flashback, warm nights, almost left behind. Suitcase of memories. Time after.
Sometimes you picture me, I'm walking too far ahead. You're calling to me, I can't hear what you've said.
Then you say, go slow, I fall behind. The second hand unwinds.
If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you, I'll be waiting. Time after time.
After my picture fades and darkness has turned to gray, watching through windows, you're wondering if I'm okay. Secrets stolen from deep inside. The drum beats out of time. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you, I'll be waiting. Time after time. You said, go slow, I fall behind. The second hand unwind. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you, I'll be waiting. Time after time. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you, I will be waiting. Time after time. Time after time. Time after time. Time after time.
And that was Time After Time for Boyce Avenue, also from Megan and Jacqueline Davies. I hope you guys really enjoyed that song. It's just taking me back to the past. Well, actually, when that song came out, I was like 5 years old. Well, I just gave away my age, but hey, who cares, right? So that was Time After Time, originally by Cyndi Lauper in 1983. you sometimes you just got to go back to the oldies, right? Because in the oldies you have like really, really like good quality songs with really good what would you call it? Good lyrics, wholesome lyrics, I would call it, right? So this is gonna bring us to the story section. Okay, now I'm gonna tell you that today's story is crazy. Okay, and this comes from Vietnam. All right, and this story is from Vietnam. And yeah, I was just inspired. Great story. Okay, so if you guys are ready, I'm gonna go straight in. This is from Wing in Vietnam, and this is her amazing story with God. So there was a time in my life where I stopped listening to the word for a little bit. I started working and just kind of having fun with my coworkers. But at that time, I really felt that life was so vague, and there was just a lack of joy. Now, this is way back in 2014. There's Vietnam Independence Day, which is September 2nd. And I wanted to take a trip to a place called Sapa. And Sapa is like a small mountain town. And because it was Independence Day, so busy, there's no airplane tickets. The only way there was to take a coach, right? To take a bus there. And we go there, me and my friends, and we go sightseeing. We see all the things that we wanted to see. And we thought to ourselves, you know what, we should go back early. Because we've seen everything. So let's go back early. And when we looked, all the tickets were sold out. So, we're there a little bit longer, and during the day, we're going out, and there's nothing to do at this point. And one place I really wanted to go, there was a church. Our church is over there. And I thought, wow, you know what? Since I was with my friends, I couldn't visit this church. But I'm going to go there now. And I got to the church, and I just prayed. I prayed so deeply. I prayed so much. And I just told God all the difficulties in this deep prayer, just everything I was going through. And at that time, I had a really hard time believing that God was real, that He actually existed. So I begged God at that time, just help me to realize that you are real. Help me to know that you exist. And just melt this hardened heart and mind with your love. Then the travel agency called, and they said, hey, there's some spots on the bus to go back early, so you can go back. And we looked at the ticket, and it was a longer trip because it wasn't direct. It stops over in another place. But we just wanted to go early, so we said, yeah, we'll take the tickets. And we got 4 tickets to go. And then a little later, they said, hey, guess what? We have tickets that just opened. 4 tickets, direct bus back to Hanoi. But one problem is 3 of you are in the front, but 1 has to sit in the very back. But a lot of my friends, for such a long trip for 10 hours, no one wants to be in the back and just get like motion sickness. But for some reason, right at that moment, I got the inspiration, and I said, I'll sit in the back. Because think about it, if I didn't say that too, no one would go, and we'd go into the other bus, which was longer. But for some reason, I had inspiration to say, I'll sit in the back. So both buses left at the same time. It was the bus we're supposed to take, the one that stops over somewhere else, and then our bus, which is direct. And we start to head along the way. Really, really scenic route. It's kind of windy road. And, it's quite dangerous, but it was really scenic at the same time. And as, the bus was moving, several hours later, suddenly just people start calling me. And they're calling me like not just 1, 2, 3, 4 people. And they're asking me, am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? And I was like, huh? And then suddenly I looked around and I started noticing that everyone in the bus was starting to get phone calls. And at this moment, you felt something was wrong. Something really scary happened. And we found out, and the bus driver said, the bus behind us like just fell off the cliff. And it just frightened me and everyone else. And then I checked my phone to look at the news, and I saw everywhere that the news was out there that this bus, fell off this cliff. And I thought to myself, man, God, you really saved me, because if I was on that bus, no one could save me, not my parents or my friends, and no one would know what I went through. And I realized that God, even though I was a sinner and I wasn't doing well, He was always by my side. And I realized at that moment that God truly exists. He protected me, He saved me, and He gave me a chance to repent. And I was truly grateful and thankful. Even if you have everything in the world, it's really meaningless. So it is God who saves both the body and spirit. He is the most important thing. And after this, I returned to learn the Word. And what was even crazier was I found out that bus was the bus that we transferred over from. So if we didn't take this bus, if I wasn't inspired to take the back seat, we would have been on that bus. And after learning the Word and bringing myself to understand God, I was able to join the wedding banquet 2015, March 16th. Wow. And that is the story from Wing in Vietnam. And I would have to say, just reading it, I was so moved by it. And I know that you guys were just as inspired too. I hope that you guys will also remember, leave your comments for Wing. Also, if you got stories, you might not think it's inspiring or is as big as like almost dying. People are going through the same things we are. And we really need to know that when we hear other people's stories that are just like ours, or we hear stories that are so crazy and amazing, you will inspire and bring people out of the depths, and you will help them to climb out with your stories. So I really hope that you guys will be able to share. More and more people are sending their stories, but we need more, right? So, even if it's just a hi, song request or anything else. So I really hope that you guys will really be able, just as we enjoy these stories from other people, let's also make sure that we can share our stories with other people too, right? So I think you guys understand that this today's was just great. I really enjoyed today's podcast as things are getting. Things are moving forward. I hope that, as you guys heard, there's a second YouTube channel called Espresso with Sky, and that's all the Bubble Talks, and not just Bubble Talks in the Lockdown Tuesdays and Bible studies. And you can refer all your newcomers to that. It's very newcomer friendly and safe. And we'll keep this Latte with Sky for, for the members. Cool. All right. So without further ado, that brings us to the end of the show. Once again, this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, April 20th, and I can't wait to meet you guys tomorrow again on Tuesday the 20th. Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yeah. Believe in yourself and believe that you're somebody.
Gotta believe in yourself. Cause no one else will.
You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful.